across the timeline, plays it to Christian Brown. There's a lob. Slam! A 40-foot alley-oop. CB on the lob. Apache on the throwdown.
That ended more abruptly than I thought it would. All right. Countdown to I tried to fade it out.
Did you make that yourself?
Yeah, I couldn't fade it out fast enough.
Impressive.
You know what you do. 2022 countdown to March Madness is here. This is the third year we're doing this in a row.
Is it really?
I think it is the third year.
Yeah, because the first year it got canceled.
First year we got job big time for that. But time is now, and it's February 7th. You got about a month until the season is kind of coming to a close. Then you go into the conference tournaments, obviously, and then you go into the tournaments, the actual tournament, right? So let it be known on the record that last year when I picked my bracket, I had Baylor beating Gonzaga. Thank you. A lot of credibility just from that alone, I would think. I don't remember who you picked. You might have picked Gonzaga to win, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or Illinois, one of the two, I'm sure.
It definitely wasn't Illinois. I had Illinois getting beat by Loyola. What are you talking about?
Right. I'm sure that's true. So, you kind of we start a little bit in the AP poll today, which is really not much to cover with that. I kind of wonder. The only question I think there is with the AP poll right now is should Gonzaga be number one? Like it doesn't matter, but in a straight up matchup, I think Gonzaga beats them at this point. Auburn, that is, but I don't think there's many questions in the AP poll at this point, unless you have some.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with any of it. I think Purdue still has some proving to do to be number 3, but well, I guess they have a big game this week. Other than that,
three big games, or at least 2.
I mean, I'm trying to get my ad blocker off so I can actually see it.
Well, let me just tell you this. I think Arizona is a better team than Purdue right now, but I also think that with the AP poll, it's obviously based off of what have you done lately, wins and losses, which that's why it doesn't matter that much. Like you can't convince me that there's certain teams that are ranked higher than others that are better than others. Like, for example, do we really think that at the end of the day, a team like Texas is worse than Marquette? Probably not. And that's a shock of smart thing that I just did right there. But I think Texas is better than Marquette. And it doesn't matter. Like Murray State getting respect at 23, I think is great. They're back on the map since John Morant left a few years ago. They're back. But other than that, it doesn't matter.
And that's the biggest thing about the AP poll, right? It's very reactive. Where some guys just do I want to say eye test, but who they think's the best, regardless of how they're playing. But yeah, I mean, it is what have you done? I mean, if you look at it that way, UCLA probably shouldn't even be ranked. I mean, they lost to a miserable Arizona State team. So I mean, yeah, sure, they dropped 9 spots, but I mean, come on, Arizona State.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad, no doubt. UCLA, I think. Do you think people still think about what they did last year or what they did early in the season? I think that's probably taken into account. They beat Villanova early. They did beat Arizona. So I think maybe I think if you start
like a month and a half off, right?
Yeah, if you start in the top 5 or the top 10, you're going to have to be pretty bad to fall completely to the bottom or out. And Alabama has dropped a lot. We've seen a team like Illinois drop out and then get back in, which I think is kind of what they do every season at this point, at least the last few seasons.
Right.
But the AP poll just doesn't matter. And it's simple because if you look at the net rankings, which I think they matter, obviously they matter more than the AP poll and they're more accurate than the AP poll, but I don't think that the end all be all. And a perfect example of that is Auburn is 7th in the net rankings. And I think a lot of that has to do with, their wins. They have a lot of good wins, but they're not like super quality. Like there's other
Right.
teams that have had bigger wins. You look at
And they probably should have. I mean, they should have lost to Georgia. I mean, maybe lost to Georgia. I don't know.
Missouri. They only beat by 1.
Yeah.
I mean,
But then again, I mean, Gonzaga's being. I swear we had this conversation last year.
there's
Gonzaga's
always going to be a
beating
conversation if Gonzaga's this
Gonzaga's
good.
beating teams by 30, but they're. I mean, but some of those teams might have been able to beat Missouri and Georgia. So, I mean, is the competition that far off considering the teams?
The thing with Gonzaga, and it was the same thing last year, is they're killing everybody. Like Santa Clara is a pretty good West Coast Conference team. Like Santa Clara is a much better team than the bottom feeders in the SEC right now. And I think that's a fact. Like Missouri's terrible, Georgia's terrible. Santa Clara is a better team. They beat Santa Clara by 37 and scored 115 points. And BYU, people think they're good. I mean, they've had some stumbles. They lost to Pacific somehow, but they killed BYU twice. They scored 200 points in 2 games against BYU. I mean, normal teams don't do that. Then their losses, they lost to Duke by 3, and Alabama was one of those games where that's how Alabama gets it done, is just shooting the ball well. And Alabama hasn't done that most of the season. They showed up and did that against Gonzaga.
Yeah. I mean, BYU's really not as good as
early season.
thought,
They were
right?
much better. They've kind of fought. I mean, they killed Oregon, but that was when Oregon was in a really bad spot. I don't think that BYU is the
San
top.
Francisco beat them by 14.
San Francisco's good. I think
BYU was at home though. Pacific beat them.
That's what I say. Yeah, Pacific.
I mean,
really
Santa Clara. Yeah, you can't say BYU is good. I don't care. Good job, Gonzaga. Way to beat them by 30.
I mean, is it normal for BYU is still number 45 on KenPom. They've lost 4 in a row. They're still number 45, and they're 32nd defensively. So no matter what, BYU 32nd defensively, scoring 200 points in 2 games against them is still somewhat of a big deal to me.
I mean, yeah, Gonzaga's good. There's no doubt about that.
I don't even want to talk about Gonzaga because we know they're good. Let's see them do it in March.
Yeah, and that's I mean, Chet Holmgren is a guy that now that he's got his college legs, I'd say, is going to be a guy that's going to be tough to beat. When he's banging with bigger guys, I mean, we'll see if he runs into a Sheboy or a Kofi or.
Well, I would think that they're
something
going
like
to do everything that they can to have Drew Timme guard those guys.
Yeah, well,
over Chet.
Good luck.
Chet's going to get folded in half if he tries to guard one of those guys. All right, let's do some stuff from last week. UCLA losing to Arizona and Arizona State. I think people forget how close, and even though this was it wasn't a year ago, but people forget how close UCLA was to the national championship last year. And this is the same team pretty much. I mean, you look at the pieces on this team, they're very similar. The core is similar. Tiger Campbell, Johnny Juzang, Jaime Jaquez, Jules Bernard. It's the same team.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll say this, and it might piss some people off, but Johnny Juzang played out of his mind in the tournament last year. If you watched him in that Arizona State game, he was awful. Yep. He tried to do too much, tried to get to the basket, couldn't make shots, couldn't make fadeaways, and he was making all of those last year in the tournament. So, it's kind of like, Johnny Davis. If Johnny Davis doesn't, do things, Wisconsin's going to lose games, right? They have Wall and Davison too, but it's one of those things where they seem streaky. So
yeah, I don't think it's the same though. I think UCLA's roster is much better than Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like Jaime Jaquez is a very solid player. Jaime Jaquez is a lot like Tyler Wall, except I think he's better, at least down the stretch in a tournament. I would trust him more. And Tiger Campbell's a very solid point guard. He's kind of maybe what Chucky Hepburn could turn into for Wisconsin in a few years. But then I think that the addition of Miles Johnson down there with Cody Riley, I think is a big deal.
I don't think Miles Johnson plays enough.
Yeah, I feel like his minutes have kind of been a little bit up and down. Early in the season, he was playing a lot more. He played 36 minutes against Villanova.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been up and down since then.
When they started, I think it was the the third overtime, I think, when they started that, it might have been the second. I mean, they went to Johnson immediately, made an easy bucket, and then he never touched the ball again. He might have went to the bench after that.
He played 17 minutes.
Was he in foul trouble? How many fouls did he have?
He had 0 fouls.
Okay, so
that's 17 minutes out of whatever math that would be to get to 3 overtimes. 55.
I mean,
minutes.
he's a big dude, and he's played against other big dudes, so he knows how to pound. So, but
yep. So we'll wrap up UCLA. I mean, concern level 1 to 10 in terms of their seeding and Pac-12 tournament concern level. How
7.
All right. I would go like 5.
Okay.
I still think the Pac-12 at the top is gettable. I mean, Arizona, I think, is the best. I think Oregon is only getting better as they do every season. USC is interesting. They've had some really bad. I mean, they lost to Stanford twice. That's a bit of an issue, I would think.
Yeah.
They hung around with Arizona. They did lose to Oregon. But USC, pretty simple. They don't have Evan Mobley. I think that's a big deal. I mean, Isaiah Mobley's good, but he's not as good as his brother.
Definitely not Evan, yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the Pac-12. Elsewhere, Kansas answers the bell after getting blown out by Kentucky at home the week before. They just took Baylor apart. We haven't seen Baylor get beaten like that in a long time.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Start to finish. I mean, the first 10 minutes of the game, it was 25-10.
Right.
And pretty efficient. They shot 64% from 2-point range. Not good from 3, but when you are 27 for 42 from inside the 3-point line, that's pretty significant. I mean, they didn't. It was pretty balanced scoring. I mean, 18 from Christian Brown, 18 from Agbaji, 15 from Jalen Wilson. McCormick had 9. So it's a lot of players that have been there. And they also have some good transfers. If Remy Martin actually gets going at any point for them, that makes them more dangerous. Obviously, we saw what Joe Yesufu could do when he was at Drake last year. So Kansas is good. Are they the best team in the Big 12 at this point? I mean, the Big 12 is the best conference, I think. I don't know if they're the best team. I don't know if I'm ready to say that. I mean, they've been flirting with losing for a long time before they lost to Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they are.
I think they're the best offensive team, and I think defensively they're right there with a tier of teams probably after Baylor, Texas Tech, Iowa State. I think after them, that's kind of where Kansas slots in defensively. So I think overall they're probably – I mean, they have the best player in the conference. So I feel like that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
With Agbaji, who was in the intro clip, by the way. So shout out to him. But they got Texas tonight, so we'll see. I mean –
yeah, see if they can back it up. That's the thing is do they have a letdown game after stomping all over Baylor?
So the stretch of early January to late January for Kansas, they beat Iowa State by 1. They destroyed West Virginia, which pretty much everybody's doing. They beat Oklahoma by 3. They beat Kansas State by 3. They beat Texas Tech by 3 in double overtime. Then they got destroyed by Kentucky. Then they come back, beat Iowa State and Baylor. So we'll see. Road game for them tonight at Texas. That'll be a part of the games to watch later. Let's see. Kentucky continues to roll. They beat Vanderbilt and Alabama. I feel like the concern level for Alabama is starting to get a little bit higher now. I don't know what to make of this team.
Yeah, Alabama is they're in a tough place. I mean, they're sitting at 8th in the SEC.
They're 4-6. I mean, that is not good enough with that roster.
Yeah, do they make the tournament? Is the question.
I mean, if you look at their resume, their wins are going to help them. Gonzaga, Houston, Tennessee, LSU, Baylor.
So what do you think? I mean, a 500 SEC team should get in, right? I mean, it depends on
so
they got work to do.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to Missouri and Georgia. Like, that is just absurd that team would lose to them.
Yeah.
But they're a team that if they get in the tournament, people will probably overlook them because of how they've played in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at that lineup, I don't really think that there's very many teams that are going to be able to throw out the 7 or 8 guys they can throw out. Like Javon Quinterly, we know he's a stud. Jaden Shackelford, we know he's a stud. J.D. Davison, big-time freshman coming in. Noah Gurley, who was a very good player at Furman last year. Keon Ellis is a veteran. Bediako, a 7-foot freshman. So they have a team that can get to the second weekend, but you just don't trust them at all.
Yeah, they seem to play like super out of control.
They play really fast.
Yeah, and that leads to being out of control. So,
Yeah,
but that's kind of what the SEC, it's like the Pac-12. It was a bunch of like the Pac-12 had a ton of athletes, and that's why they got far. All those teams, and the SEC is kind of turning into that too, where it's just you get athletes, and that's you look at Arizona State. I mean, that's what all they are just really good athletes that can kind of play basketball. And Arizona State's given a lot of teams scares. But Alabama's they got to figure it out. I just don't see.
I'd be shocked if they don't get in.
I would be too.
They're 24th in the net. They have too many great wins.
I don't know what their schedule the rest of the way looks like, but
well, it's not going to be easy with the conference, but
I mean, maybe they played more of the bottom of the. It looks like they play.
They lost to Missouri and Georgia. Really,
they played Mississippi, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and LSU. So
they got at least 4 wins in there.
Yeah,
which gets them to 8.
They go 8 and 10.
So I mean, they have 6 quad 1 wins. That's going to really help them. But then they have 2 quad 3 losses, which I still think that 6 Q1 wins is going to override especially when they've beaten a team that's going to be a 1 seed with Gonzaga, and they beat Houston, who's going to be probably a 2 seed.
Do you think they take into account those early season games, though? Don't you think they take into account how you play, progress mid-season and then how you're rolling from there on out?
They do, but it still matters. Like, they wouldn't play those games if they didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They beat Gonzaga and Houston.
Doesn't matter.
That's going to matter. I think in Baylor, they beat Baylor a week ago, so that matters. So that's something to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, and then Baylor got stomped. Maybe Baylor's not going to get in.
Okay. Jeez, now we're going off the rails. All right. North Carolina, not a tournament team to me at all. I think they'll probably get in, but this team does everything but scream tournament. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact the ACC is a joke. They're 0-7 in quad 1 games. And I don't want to talk too much about all the quads, in the first episode here, but my God, North Carolina is so unimpressive. I mean, just so Duke took them apart. North Carolina had won 4 straight going into that, but it's Virginia Tech who's completely underperformed. Boston College is atrocious. NC State's bad. Louisville is a disaster. Who are their wins that you point to? Michigan, they beat by 21. Michigan's not as good as they were supposed to be. Furman's a good SoCon team, but this is North Carolina. So I don't know. I don't think they're a tournament team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and every time they've played a good team, they've lost by 20. So
yeah, I mean, they hung with Purdue, which made me think maybe there was some hope here, but they lost to Miami by 28. Lost to Notre Dame.
You can't say
5.
Purdue wasn't shaky early, though. I mean,
Purdue was controlling that entire game.
When they lose their first 3 of their first 4 Big Ten games or something. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're a tournament team, but things could change.
No, I mean, they're
another chance against Duke. Clemson would be a decent win on the road.
It depends on how many ACC teams you think get in. How many bids does the ACC get this year? Where they usually have 7, 8?
Yeah, they're going to get 4 just because of their I don't even think they deserve 4. The gap between Duke and everybody else in this conference, I don't think has ever been bigger at this point because it's so atrocious. Because after Duke's number 10 in the net, and then you find the next team, you got to go pretty far down, and you go to Wake Forest at 38. So that's a pretty big gap for a so-called power conference, which really isn't that this year. Let's see. Auburn, like we said earlier, struggled to beat Georgia 4 days after scoring 100 against Alabama. We'll talk more about Auburn later. Here's a fun stat alert. There are 7 top 60 adjusted defensive efficiency teams in the Big East, 5 teams over 500 in the conference. So I would think that would tell you that the Big East is a conference of defense, right? I mean, you look at the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams in the conference, all quality defensive clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, none of them are actually top 20 in the metric, but they're all hovering around that. Villanova, Marquette, Seton Hall, top 30. And I think the thing that sets Villanova apart from the rest is their offense. 4th offense per KenPom. I think that's what makes them the best. Do you think Villanova is the best team in the Big East right now? Because some people would say Providence because of their record, but I don't buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the Villanova train start the season. I jumped off of it. I feel kind of like Andy Katz,
Yep.
but I'm back on it. I believe Villanova is good. You talk about their depth a lot and
lack of depth, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, lack of depth and how that might hurt them. And I think maybe come tournament time it might hurt them. But right now, yeah, I'd say they're the best. I don't think Providence's schedule's been that hard. Right
I'm going
now.
to go in on Providence a little bit later.
Okay.
What they are. The Mountain West might be the best non-power conference to watch. Like the West Coast Conference is kind of a conference that I was looking forward to this season to watching late at night, but the Mountain West is unbelievable. I mean, Colorado State, David Roddy's a stud. Boise State, San Diego State, Wyoming is incredible to watch. Fresno State, Utah State. And the surprising thing for me, I thought Nevada was going to be good. And then I learned quickly that you should never trust Steve Alford to coach. So I can't believe Nevada's as bad as they are, but they are. And the Mountain West is just unbelievable. I mean, it's a conference that should get like 4 bids.
I haven't watched any Mountain West basketball yet. So
it is a 4-bid worthy conference, I believe. The number 1 defense in the country is San Diego State right now. Number 7 is Boise State. And then you want to go offensively, Wyoming's a top 20 offense. Colorado State's a top 25 offense. They have a lot of great players, and it's a conference that I think deserves multiple bids. I mean,
what are you watching that on? ESPN
Plus? Well, CBS Sports Network will throw some on. Last night you had who the hell was playing last night? Wyoming and Fresno State was on there last night. Good game. I mean, top 40 in the net. They got multiple teams. Wyoming's 30th. Boise State's 34th. Colorado State's 40th. Utah State's 43rd. San Diego State 54th. But the thing with San Diego State is you can look at the number 54 net ranking and then say, okay, they have the best defense in the country. Fresno State 56. So this is a 4-bid. This conference right now is deserving of more bids than the ACC. Now, will they get that? Probably not, but they should. Maybe the quality of teams isn't the exact same, which it's not, obviously, because of Duke, but what a joke for the committee if they don't give the Mountain West multiple bids. And I think they will, but we'll see. Maybe they're stupid. I don't know. They probably are. All those old dudes who don't really watch the games until March.
Well, it should be interesting with with the ACC maybe not getting as many.
The West Coast Conference will figure in too.
Yeah, that's what. Who are they going to steal those bids from? Because I think everybody at the beginning of the season was talking about how the West Coast Conference could get 4 bids.
I think they could get 3 maximum.
3 max. Yeah, but
St. Mary's and San Francisco would be the other 2.
But you got to think the Big Ten's probably not going to get as many as it usually does.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to still be sorted out in the Big Ten, though. I think Rutgers could make a push. I think other teams that I can't think of off the top of my head could make a push,
Michigan, I know you're still about Michigan having a chance.
I mean, they do.
After that, Iowa, I don't think is that good.
No, Iowa's not good at all.
And then after that, it's all bad. So.
Yeah, we'll see. Finally, the Atlantic 10, probably the conference that makes the least amount of sense this season. And a conference where I think the best conference tournament in the country this year will be the Atlantic 10 tournament. Because at the beginning of the season, the consensus team was St. Bonaventure. They're going to be good. All 5 starters returning. Quickly, they learned that they're not as good as Villanova, and they don't have the depth. Like they're similar to Villanova in the fact they have about 6 or 7 guys, but they're not as good as Villanova. So that's a problem. But Davidson's been great, number 7 offense in the country. St. Louis is coming around, a team that I always talk up every single season. And I know they lost, what's his name, due to injury, before the season even started, whose name I can't think of for some reason. Javonte Perkins, maybe, I don't even know. Dayton's solid. VCU's a very good defensive team, but a horrible offensive team. Like VCU's 310th right now in offensive efficiency, which is unbelievable. Richmond's solid. George Mason in Kim English's first season has been pretty good, but this conference tournament is going to be very, very unpredictable. I hope Davidson wins though, because they're the best tournament level. Like watchability matters in the tournament, and Davidson is far more watchable than the other teams.
And you think that if Davidson doesn't win the tournament, they wouldn't get in?
I think they probably would be right there. I mean, their losses, San Francisco, pretty good loss, considering San Francisco is actually top 30 on KenPom. VCU, that's not a horrible loss. New Mexico State, also not a horrible loss. Then you go to wins, they beat Alabama, which you said that doesn't matter in December, but I feel like for a team like Davidson, it would matter, considering Davidson's not a power conference team. But
if it's before December 10th, it doesn't matter.
Well, it was December 21st.
Okay, then it matters.
Don't you think it matters before December 10th for a non-power conference team if they beat the power conference team?
Yeah,
that's good.
Sure.
Like, they have to be good. It can't be Georgia, you know?
Yeah, I'll give that to you.
Thank you. All right. Surprising and disappointing teams. One from each power conference, and we start in the ACC.
You want me to go first?
Yes, I do.
My surprising team in the ACC is Wake Forest, who's currently third at 9-4 in the conference. My disappointing team, and I went there for a whole semester, so I'm pretty much an alumni. What is Florida State doing right now? 6-6, 7th in the ACC. Not going to make the tournament probably.
We can't really say that
unless they get it going.
They got a good roster, just not coming around.
Yeah,
and I thought that they might be
can't figure it out, and it seems like they usually start figuring it out, but I don't know if they're going to this year.
They had a stretch in January where they beat Miami twice and beat Duke, and since then they've lost to Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Wake Forest.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. I don't know what to make of that team, but this is Leonard Hamilton's worst team in a while, no doubt. For me, I feel like Wake Forest is the obvious pick here.
Right.
But I'm going to go Miami, 16-7, 8-4 in the conference. This was not a team I looked at as being very good going into the season. Like, they have a couple of good players. You look at McGusty and Wong and what they've done. They beat Duke. Charlie Moore is playing his 40th season of college basketball. They're 22nd in adjusted offensive efficiency on KenPom, which is good. And the big thing is they were 4-15 in the ACC last year. So they've already doubled their win total by February. So that's something to think about. Disappointing. I'm going to go Virginia Tech, a team that I really like going into the season. 13-10 overall, 5-7 in the ACC. They lost to NC State and Boston College. This is a starting five that should be so much better than what they are. Like, they made the tournament last year. Mm-hmm. They bring in Storm Murphy, and Hunter Couture is still there. So that right there should be two great shooters in the perimeter. Aluma is still there. Justin Butts is still there. Please explain to me how the hell this team is not better. Like, they are a team that should be 7-5, 8-4 in the conference. Makes no sense to me. They have the number 19 overall offense, 113 defense. It's just, they shoot the three well. So the Couture and Murphy thing is working. They're second in the country in 3-point percentage, but they're 5-7 in the worst conference, not the worst conference in the country, but the worst Power 6 conference in the country. So it makes no sense to me. I don't get it. I really thought Virginia Tech would be better, but I guess the whole Mike Young, Redenbacher thing that Rothstein does is not working out too well this season. It is what it is, I guess. Big Ten.
Big Ten. I'm going to go. I think pretty obvious. The surprising would be Wisconsin, who's currently tied for second in the Big Ten right now at 9-3. I don't think anybody expected Johnny Davis to have the big jump he did. Can he consistently do that day in and day out? I don't know.
Not against teams that have guards that can actually guard the perimeter.
Yeah, and will Wisconsin falter? I don't know. They don't have.
Greg Gard wasn't an idiot and gave the ball to Tyler Walmore, I think they'd be better.
Yeah, and I think they were predicted to be like 8th or 9th in the Big Ten preseason. Yep. So pretty impressive what they're doing. They have one of the easier schedules down the stretch in the Big Ten. So depending on what happens in that Illinois-Purdue game, they still have a shot to win the Big Ten. Maybe tie, but probably not outright. I see them losing a couple they probably shouldn't. They've had some scares already. And then my disappointing is Michigan. I think that one's pretty clear too. 5-5 in the Big Ten right now. Ethan thinks that they're going to put something together, but yet they keep losing. But Dickinson is really good. It's just they don't have the guards they did last year. At least not the guards haven't developed yet. I saw somebody say they don't have the ready-to-play guards like they did last year.
Which is a problem considering that Devontae Jones is a senior who came over from Coastal Carolina. And I would have thought if you had to ask me like 2 years ago this question, who would be better in the Big Ten of Michigan, Mike Smith or Devontae Jones? I would say Devontae Jones 10 times out of 10. On paper, he should be so much better for them than he is, but Mike Smith is a really good fit last year, and it has not worked this year, and the freshmen have not been good.
Yep.
Caleb Houston specifically, he has had a rough go.
But he reclassed, right? So he should technically be a senior in high school right now.
I think so. I'm not. Yeah, he's born in 03, so I would think so. But Eli Brooks is still there, but after Dickinson, it's pretty dark.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
Dickinson put up 28 against Purdue the other night, and they didn't have a guard score in double digits. So
that's a problem. I'm going with Wisconsin. I feel like everything you said about them is right. They're 18-4 overall, 9-3 in the Big Ten. Number 1 turnover percentage on offense, so they take care of the ball. And their 4 losses are fine. I mean, they probably should have lost to Penn State. Or Penn State should have had a little bit more competence on offense late in that game the other night. But
Penn State, mind you, walked off the bus an hour before that game started.
Yeah,
and they were cold, scoring 13 points in the first half.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But their 4 losses, Providence, Ohio State, Michigan State, Illinois, those are 4 fine losses, so nothing bad. Loss-wise, non-conference, they did. I know it doesn't matter since it's before December 10th. They did obliterate Marquette.
That's right.
That's a fact. So my disappointing team is obviously Michigan is the pick here, but I had to go somewhere else.
Maryland.
I'm going to go with Northwestern.
Okay.
Based off of Rothstein's, thinking that they're going to make the tournament.
I thought you were going to go off of how good you thought Maryland was going to be.
Well, I backed off Maryland late, so I kind of saved myself there. If we're being honest. 4-8 in the Big Ten. You should really never trust Chris Collins. I think that Rothstein learned his lesson with this one. They have a solid roster, top 50 offense, and just they're not good. I think they should, at the very least, this should be a bubble team, and they're not even close. Yeah. So Northwestern disappointing. They've just Boo Booey's a joke in big games. There's no doubt about that. Pete Nance is really their only threat for the most part. If you can guard the perimeter, you'll be fine against them. They play hard. They play teams close. They beat Michigan State. But other than that, it's been a big fat nothing for Chris Collins, and maybe he should get fired, to be honest. Anyway, Big 12, best conference in the sport.
Big 12, I'm going to go surprising. I mean, I know Texas Tech had a lot of guys back. O'Banner, who was phenomenal in the tournament last year also.
For Oral Roberts.
Huh?
O'Banner at Oral Roberts in the tournament. Very, very dynamic.
Yes. So I thought, losing Chris Beard, Mark Adams comes in, he does things to keep them going. Texas comes in, and that was one of the coolest atmospheres I've seen all year. So I know Texas Tech was supposed to be good. I didn't think they'd be this good. 7-3, 18-5 overall. My disappointment is going to be Oklahoma. Porter Moser should have stayed home. Oklahoma is currently 3-7 in the Big 12, 13-10 overall, and they just aren't that good. So,
I think that's fair to say. I feel like Texas Tech's the obvious pick here. I thought Mark Adams was a good hire considering the system that they run, and his fit there defensively is good. They're number 2 in adjusted defense on KenPom, which when I say defensive efficiency or adjusted defense or defense, it is all the same thing. For clarification, for the folks who may not be as quote unquote savvy as me when it comes to this, which I'm not. But last time they were top 2 was when they were number 1 in 2019, and they went to the national championship and lost to Virginia. Now, do they have a Jarrett Culver on this team? Probably not. But do they have a pretty good roster with guys who have played in the tournament? Yes. O'Banner is a big part of that. Great addition there, I think. Efficient player. Hasn't been as good from 3 this year as he was last season, but also I think the defenses in the Big 12 are probably a little bit better than the defenses in the Summit League. So he was 45% from 3 last year, 32% this year. So something to think about there. But other than that, just a very lengthy, physical. Like you look at the 5 guys that play the most minutes for them, 6'5", 6'6", 6'6", 6'8", 6'8". And other guys that play the most minutes for them, 6'7", 6'6". You want to go even further, 6'3", 6'3", 6'11", 6'7". Those are the guys that play the minutes for them. And if you want to go even further, guys that don't play at all, pretty much, who are quote-unquote bench warmers, 6'6", 6'6". Every single player on the roster is 6'2" or above. And there's only 2 guys that are 6'3", so after that it's 6'5" or above. Lengthy team means you play good defense for the most part. Athletically speaking, yes. And they've just been a force. I mean, their losses, you can't really complain about any of their losses. Providence, Gonzaga, Iowa State, Kansas. Now, Kansas State, not a great loss. It was an away game. Kansas almost lost to them too. But Texas Tech's the obvious pick for surprising team in the Big 12. Disappointing. I didn't have that big of expectations with Oklahoma considering what they lost. Devion Harmon and Brady Manick, a.k.a. Larry Bird, a.k.a. Bill Walton. So I think that West Virginia is a team to look at. I know they lost Deuce McBride. I know the roster this year is not as good as it was last year, but you look at their lineup, Malik Curry, Taz Sherman, Jalen Bridges, Kedrian Johnson, Sean McNeil. That's a team that should not be 2-7 in the Big 12. They've lost 7 straight. Still a good defensive team, which is always the case for Huggins for the most part. It's been ugly. I mean, this was a 13-2 team on January 11th. They're now 13-9. So it's a problem. And they've lost to good teams. Like every team they've played has been top 50 on the metrics and such. But I just don't understand how this team could be this bad. They beat UConn and UAB in non-conference play. They should be better than this, and it's a problem. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out. I guess they could be a team that goes crazy and wins a bunch more games and still finishes like 9 or 10 wins in the Big 12, which is going to be hard to get because they pretty much have like 10 games left. But they're not that hard. I mean, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, TCU, Oklahoma, TCU again. Winnable games coming up, but they've just been horrible. All right. Offensive rebounding, by the way, they're 350th in the percentage. That's just terrible for a Big 12 team. Big East.
Big East, I think clearly Providence is a big surprise right now. I know we talked about them before. They haven't had that tough a schedule, but still they're 10-1. They're leading the Big East right now. 20-2 over the season. They've had some good wins. They beat Purdue in a preseason scrimmage. If you guys didn't know, that's what they did. Guy had 10 fouls and still got to play. And I switched up my disappointment. I picked Butler for some reason. They sucked last year. I don't know why I picked them. I'm going to change it up to Creighton. Creighton 5-5 right now in the Big East. I think they were supposed to be better, and they're not better. So
yeah, I tried not to pick a team that lost their best player, but Creighton early in the season looked like they were going to be good, and they've just been complete up and down. 5-5 now, so they lost
since Ty left. They didn't know what to do.
They lost to Xavier twice and Butler. That's pretty, and they lost to Arizona State. Pretty ugly. But for surprising, I had to go Marquette. I mean, nobody thought Marquette would be as good as they are and like be as competitive and like the teams they've beaten. It's very impressive what Shock has done there in year one. 16-7 overall. They are 8-4 in the Big East. Fast-paced team. They play very fast. And then the leadership of Daryl Morcell was a huge get. and they're a team with tons of length. I think they're a team that could get to the Sweet 16 with good matchups. I mean, you want to talk about the length of Texas Tech? I mean, Marquette has it too. Kolek 6'3", Lewis 6'7", Morcell 6'5", Olivier Maxence Prosper 6'8", Kirk Quath 6'10". So they're just a fast-paced team. When they beat Illinois in November, I didn't think that they would end up being a very good team, but they've kind of lived up to it. I mean, they've just mauled teams in the Big East. I mean, they started 0-3 in the Big East, and they're math-wise 8-1 since then with a loss to Providence by 2. So I didn't want to go with Providence just because I thought Providence would be solid, but I thought Marquette was going to be bottom 4, bottom 3 in this conference, and they're not. So props to Shaka. Disappointing. I mean, I know that they're still in the mix, and they're still a team that could surprise people down the stretch. St. John's 13-9, 5-6 in the conference. They got to get better defensively. Like, their defense is not good enough for this conference, but they just play so fast. They're another one of those teams that when you play that fast, you tend to get out of control. We've seen teams like Michigan State have that issue. We've seen other teams of tournament level capability have that issue. But this is a team with Julian Champagny and Posh Alexander. Those two right there. You got to make the tournament with those two guys in your team. They're both very good. Montez Mathis transfer from Rutgers. This is a team that has a good enough roster and a good enough group of a mix of talent that should be in the tournament. So St. John's has got to be better down the stretch. They started 5-6 in the conference last year, went 5-3 after that, finished 10-9, lost in the first round of the Big East tournament to Seton. So we'll see if St. John's gets better down the stretch. They better, or I'm going to be disappointed even more than I already am. So Pac-12.
Pac-12, my surprise, even though I don't even know if it should be a surprise, but because they got, Tommy Lloyd, first year there, Arizona off to a 9-1 start in the Pac-12. I believe they've only lost 2 games this year.
Yep.
Pretty impressive considering the, crap that Sean Miller left hanging for him. He's done an amazing job. My disappointment is going to be a team I talked about a little bit earlier, Arizona State. Bobby Hurley, he got some 5-star recruits, had some big transfers come in, and he's literally done nothing. I don't know if he's just that bad a coach or the team just isn't as good as they look on paper, because I think they shoot like 23% from 3 or something like that. So I'm gonna go with Arizona State. They're struggling. They've been in some games, and they finally pulled one off against UCLA, even though they probably shouldn't have, because they chucked up 35-foot shots to try to beat UCLA. But hey, it is what it is.
So I went with Arizona as the most surprising. I mean, I thought they'd be good, maybe 7-3, 6-4 at this point. They're 9-1 in the conference. They had some rocky games of shooting the ball. UCLA was an example of that. They lost that game, but they're just fast. They're good on both ends. They have a lottery pick. They have quality players from Europe that are very fundamentally sound and skilled. Tubelis, Krisa. So, I mean, I still think that they kind of go as far as Krisa takes them, because he's running the point and he's been very inconsistent. And games that he's played bad in, they've played bad in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see down the stretch. He had like a stretch where he made like 1 out of 33s or something. So
right.
That could be a problem. Disappointing. I think Arizona State's a good pick. I don't think it's fair to say that Bobby Hurley has done nothing, because look at the situation there. They had to cancel stuff because they didn't have running water in their arena. That entire university is a joke in college basketball right now. And also, Bobby Hurley's an idiot for staying there. So he gets punished for his loyalty. It's unfortunate for Bobby. I'm a big fan, but he should get out of there as soon as possible. But I do think that the Hurley brothers are probably a little overrated in the coaching game right now. Like, I think they have much worse records than their talent would suggest, but different situations, I suppose. I know Oregon State lost Ethan Thompson. They're not as good, but they're 1-9 in the conference, 3-17 overall. They're just horrendous. I'm not saying they should be a tournament team, but I'm saying they should not be 3-17 overall.
Right.
They just got to the Elite Eight. I don't care who you are. They have some returning players. Alatishe is still there. Lucas is still there. Silva's still there. Kalu is still there. That's 4 guys that play the majority of their minutes that were there last year.
Yeah,
So
sometimes you're red hot, though. I mean,
yeah, but
and they were riding about as hot
3
as
and
you could.
17, they lost to Samford and Princeton, not Stanford, Samford. UC Davis beat them. It's just a disastrous season. And last season they really weren't that great, but they
I was gonna say, what was the record last season?
it was 14 and 12 going into the conference tournament. They were 10 and 10 in conference play.
Okay.
Beat UCLA, Oregon, and Colorado, which is unbelievable to get to the tournament. So, yeah, just disappointing. 1 and 9 overall is just not good enough, I would say.
Yeah,
fair to say.
that is.
All right, SEC.
The SEC. I'm gonna go with surprising. I'm gonna go with Auburn. Auburn was not great last year, right? I mean,
They were close. I think they had the tournament ban self-imposed or whatever.
it looks, if this is correct, it looks like they were 7 and 11.
Yeah, they were
13 and 14 overall. So
yeah, they were good. I mean, they had
so
good numbers.
now that Bruce Pearl can pay his players legally, they get guys like Jabari Smith and guys like that. Jabari Smith reminds me a lot of Cade Cunningham last year. He has the same skill set, I believe. Maybe not as good of a player, but maybe better. I don't know. Anyways, and then my disappointment is going to be the team that won the regular season last year, Alabama. Last year they were 16 and 2 in the conference. This year they're sitting at 4 and 6. We talked about it a lot earlier. 8th place. I don't know what Nate Oates is doing, but he better get his team going, or they might not even make the tournament. Like I said.
Yeah, I feel like that is a very real possibility, them missing, but I also think that they're going to figure it out because the talent on the roster would suggest otherwise.
Right.
Auburn is the clear-cut most surprising team just because 22 and 1, 10 and 0 in the conference. Jabari Smith's the star. Katie Johnson's a perfect complement to their lineup. Wendell Green's a very dynamic guard, and Walker Kessler is a very good defender in the paint. Other than the Mizzou and Georgia games and the loss to Connecticut, which was a double overtime game, they've been fairly dominant. I mean, dominated a lot of teams. Some teams have kept it close with them, but Auburn got most surprising. In Missouri, yes. Alabama is the most disappointing for sure. They beat Gonzaga, but they've been very bad in a lot of games. Good lineup, good amount of talent, horrendous losses. Georgia, Missouri, Memphis, Iona they lost to. Iona's good, very quality Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference team, but Alabama should win that game. Mm-hmm. So that's something to think about with Auburn and Alabama being the most disappointing teams. So, yeah. Auburn being the most surprising. I don't know. I'm losing track of all the things I've got written down here.
Right.
Mid-major teams.
We only got like 45 minutes more of this show, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Mid-major teams. Did you pick any mid-major teams?
Yeah, I picked. You told me to pick 2.
Yeah.
So my surprising mid-majors, haven't watched them play, but everybody's talking about them. Wyoming, currently 2nd in the Mountain West. And then my other one is Longwood. Did you know there was a college named Longwood?
Absolutely.
Out of the Big South, currently 1st.
I'd like to congratulate them on being a part of the Games of the Week segment later. They will
10
be
and
part
0, 9 and 0 in the conference, 17 and 5 overall. They're on a 10-game winning streak. Better than Winthrop which is the only team I really know out of this conference. So good for Longwood.
Quality club.
Disappointing. I went with 4 or 3 teams. You said pick 2. I went with 3 because I picked all 3 of these teams to win their conference. And currently St. Bonaventure is 7th in the Atlantic 10. Memphis is 5th in the Athletic. What are they in?
AAC,
American Athletic Conference. And Penny Hardaway's a sinking ship right now. And then San Diego State is currently 5th in the Mountain West. So, don't ever listen to me for conference championship picks.
Yeah, you fell into quite the trap with Memphis there. Surprising. I'm going number 1, Murray State, 22 and 2, 12 and 0 in the OVC. They were picked 3rd in the preseason poll. They're 1st, and they're clear-cut best team in the Ohio Valley. Very solid on both ends of the floor. They're a rare mid-major team that's top 50 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Tevin Brown, who was there in when John Morant was there, has double-digit points in all 24 games. Their 2 losses were East Tennessee State, which is a head-scratcher, and Auburn was their other loss. They hung around with Auburn, lost by 13, but did hang around with them. And then my other surprising team, mid-major-wise, is Vermont, 18-4, 10-0 in the America East. They were picked second in the polls. They were supposed to be good, but they've been fantastic. And when you're undefeated in your conference and you're not picked to win your conference, that's somewhat surprising. 36th in adjusted offensive efficiency, 11 straight double-digit wins, 5 seniors that start, and they're number 4 in the country. People probably don't know this, number 4 in 2-point percentage in the country.
Wow.
That's how you win in March. You make the easy shots.
That's right.
And you have 5 seniors. I guarantee right now.
Kill the bunnies.
First guarantee of the season. I'm going to write this down.
Okay.
Vermont wins a tournament game.
Okay.
Now, this will blow up in my face if they don't win the conference tournament, but and I believe if I'm
a play-in game, are they going to win the play-in game?
I believe if I'm not mistaken, last year's America East tournament was ridiculous. I think who came out of that last year? I'm trying to remember who came out of the that conference last year, but it was quite something. Was it no? It was Hartford. Yeah, Hartford came out of it. Hartford was a team that was 4th in the conference. They ended up coming out and then losing to Baylor in the tournament. Hey, they only lost to Baylor by 24. That's not bad considering the circumstances. So there's that. Disappointing teams are going to go Buffalo. They were picked to win the MAC in the preseason poll, 11-8, 5-4 in the conference. Their only player that has really been anywhere near good at all is a dude named Jonathan Williams. Unbelievably weird name.
Yeah.
Numbers are horrendous. And, they're not as good as they're supposed to be. And if you didn't pick Ohio to win the MAC, then you're high. I mean, come on. Ohio's a quality ball club. Even though they might not win the MAC, I guess. That is a very real possibility. Disappointing. Memphis, obviously. What a disaster. What a joke. Like, Penny Hardaway's a joke. He can't coach. It's ridiculous that there's this notion that he can. He's a glorified AAU coach who has a lot of talent and does nothing but waste it every single season. It's embarrassing that this guy is still coaching them. It's embarrassing. Like, you have Jalen Duren, you bring in Amani Bates, you already have some good players there. You've gotten transfers over the years that have been good. Like, it's embarrassing that he can't do anything with this talent.
Did Amani Bates end up leaving, or what happened with that?
He hasn't been playing. It doesn't look like he's going to play. I don't know. I mean, it's ridiculous that they don't do anything. Like, they lost to Georgia. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost to Tulane. They lost to UCF. They lost to East Carolina. Like, what are you doing? Houston is going to take them apart on Saturday. Like, that game's going to be a joke. And usually they play pretty close when they play each other. But my God, that's going to be disastrous to watch for them. All right, let's talk brackets. Do you think if the season ended at this very moment, who would be the 4 number 1 seeds, you think? This is a heavy question.
Boy, yeah. You didn't
Well,
Gonzaga?
you throw some stuff your way. I feel like there's 3 that are pretty locked in.
Yeah, Gonzaga.
Yep.
Auburn.
Yep.
Arizona.
Yep. And then the 4th one's kind of up for debate.
Yeah, the 4th one, it depends on how things shake out. I honestly, I'd like to see Houston get it one. So, but
yeah,
I don't see it happening, but I'd like to see.
The thing with Houston is probably, they have 2 quad 1 wins. That's pretty low,
right,
for a team that could be a 1 seed. And by the way, those quad 1 wins are not wins where you look at it and like, those are great wins. It's Oregon in November when Oregon was horrendous, and it's Cincinnati.
That doesn't count.
Well, I didn't say it didn't count. There's definitely less merit with that. That's an Oregon team that scored less than 50 points and got obliterated by BYU. So Oregon's a different team now. It counts, but 2 quad 1 wins is very low for 1 seed. I would give it to Kentucky right now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if Purdue, wins out and wins the Big Ten tournament, they'll probably get one.
Yeah, I think the quad 2 loss might hold them back a little bit for some people. Kind of does for me. That loss to Rutgers.
Yeah.
But Kentucky has 4 quad 1 losses, no other losses in any of the other quads. Beat Kansas. I think you can make a pretty – I know it doesn't matter, but you can make a pretty strong argument that they would have beaten Auburn if Ty Washington did not get hurt in that game. Doesn't matter, but it's worthy of saying. They were up, I believe, 9 when he got hurt. So, yeah, I mean, they destroyed North Carolina for whatever that's worth. I don't really think it's worth anything. But, yeah, I mean, that would kind of be something I look at. In terms of the bubble right now, I feel like if you look at most of these so-called bracketologists, and I'm going to pull up Lunardi here because he's supposed to be the gold standard, even though I think he's a bronze standard at best. He has Auburn as the number 1 seed right now, which is fine. I mean, they have 1 loss.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the bubble right now, last 4 byes, which would mean, of course, the last 4 teams in before you get to the play-ins. Loyola Chicago, San Francisco, Seton Hall, BYU, which I'm surprised that he has BYU over somebody like Wyoming. And I know BYU probably has better wins because early in the season they beat Oregon. Wow, big deal. You beat Oregon when Oregon was atrocious. But then the last 4 in, Wyoming, Creighton, San Diego State, and Oregon. I don't understand Lunardi and what he's doing here. I mean, whatever. I mean, this would make for some pretty good. I mean, Wyoming Creighton would be an embarrassing game for Creighton. They would get obliterated in that game. I guarantee it. Wyoming would go up and down the floor in that game. Like it's nobody's business at all. Like it would be a joke, Creighton in that game. Oregon, San Diego State would be very intriguing. San Diego State is a team that could beat Oregon in that game. I feel like San Diego State's defense could really hurt Oregon. But the thing with Oregon is that they have guards you can trust. Will Richardson's been there for a long time. Jacob Young played in the tournament with Rutgers last year. He's a very dynamic defender, a very tough player, the type of player you want in March. Very KD Johnson-like, very DeMonte Williams-like, maybe not a glue guy per se, but just an all-around good player. First 4 out, Florida, Mississippi State, Notre Dame, West Virginia. Next 4 out, SMU, UAB, Florida State, Chattanooga. So a little bit more mid-major hype in the bubble for Lunardi than normal, I would think. UAB getting a mention, Chattanooga, San Francisco, Wyoming, San Diego State, all of those teams getting some pop. What do you think? I mean, if you're looking for electric matchups, this is not really the tournament for that, for what he put here. I mean,
yeah,
nobody wants to watch Iowa State, North Carolina in the first round. Like North Carolina as a 10 seed, like what are you doing? Other than their name, what have they done to deserve to be in the tournament? Like he doesn't even have them on the bubble. Like that's embarrassing.
I mean that was kind of Michigan State last year, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean,
you get a little extra because of who you are.
Michigan State at least beat Illinois last year. I feel like North Carolina's beaten nobody.
Well, I mean, they just had to break an All-American's nose to do it, but yeah.
Illinois was playing quite horribly in that game. So looking at some of his Lunardi, we'll probably go with a different bracketologist each week. Maybe go to Jerry Palm, CBS next week, but we're almost at an hour and we're only on the bracketology thing, so I'm going to kind of speed this up. Even though our first episode of all time, I believe, is almost 2 hours, so we're fine.
I mean, I knew we'd be an hour and a half at least, so.
It's very important topics to discuss. The Midwest region, he has Auburn as the 1 seed there. He has UCLA as the 2 seed. Kansas as the 3 seed. Illinois as the 4 seed. You have Illinois playing Drake, which I think a lot of Illini fans, as we are, would look at that and say, oh, God, bad matchup, Missouri Valley. But I don't think so. I mean, Drake's okay, but they're really not that. Like Drake last year would scare me much more than this year. The Yesufu's gone. They have a lot of the same players, but I just don't think that they're good enough to go far in the tournament from where that is. Elsewhere, if you're looking for good matchups on the 8-9 line, you're really not going to get them with this one. I guess Arkansas and Murray State would be interesting, probably because Murray State would be a very popular upset pick there.
You don't like Boise State, Miami?
It doesn't do it for me, no. If it was like Wyoming, Miami, I'd be all in, but it's not. So
okay.
Ohio State versus the winner of San Diego State, Oregon would be tremendous because it's Ohio State kind of getting screwed again. I know they didn't get screwed last year. I mean, Oral Roberts was a horrendous matchup for them as a 15 seed, but I would be very confident in Oregon beating Ohio State in round 1 because Oregon always does this. They were a 12 seed, 2-3 years ago? They beat Wisconsin in the first round.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would not be good for them. Elsewhere, I mean, I don't really see much else that's that interesting. I guess Texas Seton Hall is an interesting matchup. USC Loyola Chicago probably as well.
Kentucky Longwood. That's a matchup.
It's a heck of a game right there. I mean, no doubt. Indiana San Francisco would probably be another popular pick. People to take San Francisco to win that game. Wisconsin Vermont, bad matchup for Wisconsin. Yeah, I mean, there's no one seed that you're worried about at all here, obviously. So, is there any 2 versus 15s here that you worry about? Probably not. I mean, Seattle's not beating Arizona. Cal State Fullerton wouldn't beat UCLA, but you never know. I guess whatever. I guess that's the quote unquote beauty of the tournament.
That's right.
What does he have Wisconsin as here? I'm trying to find it.
I don't know. He has
4.
Michigan State as a 3.
Yeah, Wisconsin as a 4, Illinois as a 4, Ohio State as a 5. Interesting.
Very.
All right, Lenardi, that's enough of you.
That Cincinnati loss is going to kill Illinois. Kill him.
That's enough of Lenardi. It's enough with him.
Get off my screen, Joe.
Yeah, that's enough with him. All right, let's do the next thing, whatever that is.
What's the next thing?
Top real contenders and mid-major upset threats. Now, forgot to write anything for this section. I can do it off the top of the dome, though.
Sure you can. Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to let you go first. And
right.
What do you have?
Well, I did my big 4 contenders, which is Gonzaga, Auburn, Kentucky, Purdue. I did my 4 others, which is Arizona, Duke, Kansas, and I'm a homer. I put Illinois. And then for mid-majors, I put Gonzaga again because, I don't know if you guys know this, but they're a mid-major team. Now I got Loyola Chicago. You know what they did against Illinois last year. Yeah, they might not have Krutwig, but they still got some guys back. They're still good. Some teams you mentioned earlier: Vermont, Davidson, Murray State. Some teams that I would say you don't want to play. So,
yeah, I feel like
I got.
I think mid-major wise, a matchup with Iona would be disastrous in the first round if they get in.
I mean, I had like 10 listed, but if you want to steal a few of them, you can.
I should do that. Yeah. But I think Murray State's team that I really like, that's going to be a hard matchup for anybody that gets that. But I think with the way that Murray State's playing right now, they're not going to be a double-digit seed. So that'll be a bad matchup. But I think there's a very limited amount of teams that can actually win a title this year. Gonzaga is one of them, clearly. Kentucky, I think, is one of them. I still think Baylor has the guys to get it done. They just had a bit of a speed bump here. I think Auburn can do it. But I think with all the hype with Auburn, I don't think that they're going to get as far as people think. They're going to have some sort of mess up.
I see them getting knocked off. I agree.
Like they did against Georgia, almost, I guess. But it'd maybe be a better team than Georgia, you would think, if they're in the tournament. I mean, can Duke win this year? I don't see why not. Their guards are playing much better than they did last season. AJ Griffin's been a huge addition there. We all know about Bonchero and what he can do. Mark Williams being a presence down there is going to be huge. Elsewhere, in terms of the mid-majors, I think San Francisco's a team you don't want to play early. St. Mary's, the same thing. If you want to talk about the West Coast Conference. The Conference USA, UAB, or North Texas. Those two teams right there, whichever one of them gets in. Now, the more balanced team between the two is UAB, but if North Texas gets in, what did they do last year? They beat Purdue in the first round. So that's a factor here, no doubt. But other than that, I feel like we're not going to really know a whole lot about, changes in who's going to do what or what people think. Like Gonzaga, Auburn, Kentucky, Purdue's your big 4. I would argue that Arizona should be in there over Purdue and that Duke could be in there over Auburn or Kentucky. Kentucky still worries me a little bit because usually with great Kentucky teams, they have that super dynamic, big-time NBA draft level player.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if I see that this year. I mean, if you look at a mock draft, when's the first Kentucky player taken? The only one listed here is Shaden Sharp, who's not actually playing for them. He reclassed and is sitting for the rest of the season. I guess Ty Washington has a chance to be a lottery pick.
Yeah.
But, Kentucky's good. We'll see. It might be peaking too early. I don't know. I'm still disappointed.
So, Ty Washington was supposed to go to Creighton, and then their coach, did whatever he did, and so he left. Did Ty have an offer from Kentucky before that, or did he not get an offer until after that? After the decommit?
I don't know that.
Because that could have. Maybe that was the reason why he decommitted. Also, is because Kentucky wanted him finally. I assume it was Illinois wanted him because of Chin Coleman and Antigua. So I'm guessing maybe when they went to Kentucky, they're like, "Hey, Calipari, you need to go after this guy." So, anyways, you talk about how Kentucky isn't as good without him. So they could have not had him, and then they would have been in trouble all year.
He committed to Creighton November 15th, 2020, decommitted March 11th, 2020. After decommitting, he got offers from UCLA, Arizona, Pitt, Oregon, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and then Kentucky.
Okay. Yeah.
Kentucky offered him about 5 months after he decommitted, and then he signed a month after getting offered by them. So there you go. He's going to be a guy that can get him there. They're not nowhere near as good as they usually – or they're nowhere near as good as they can be unless he's playing.
Yeah.
And the Auburn game was proof of that. All right. Final segment. Well, one of the final segments here, because the other one's pretty short. Games of the week. And I hope that you have them in front of you at some point, like the games of the week overall, not the games of the week picks, but all of the games this week, because I might have missed some because I put about 1 billion games on here. It's a lot.
What was that on CBS somewhere?
Yeah,
Where did that go?
Whereabouts? All right, tonight.
Schedule. There it is.
Tonight. Not too much going on tonight or tomorrow, but here are my games of the week.
Okay.
Let me know your thoughts, and if you're going to watch some of these games, maybe peep in on a few.
Is today the 7th?
That would be accurate, yes.
Okay.
So you got 2 games at 6:00 tonight. Also, right now you have Hofstra and UNC Wilmington, quality Colonial Athletic Association battle right there. It's 36-35 UNCW. All right. 6:00, Chattanooga, Mercer, ESPN Plus. So you're going to see a lot of ESPN Plus here, which really makes it worth it down the stretch here of the season, because conference tournaments is ESPN Plus if you're watching mid-major games, no doubt. And we'll probably try to do a night or two during the conference championship week where we're watching games live with the folks, maybe have some guests join us who aren't homers to certain schools. George Mason at Richmond, 6:00 ESPN Plus. George Mason's been a pretty, kind of a spoiler type team in the Atlantic 10 this season. That'll be a solid game.
You can go to the game for $10. So if you're in the area,
yep,
go to the
Richmond,
game.
In the Richmond area, yes. 8:00 or 7:00, UTEP at North Texas. Now, if you watch UTEP play, this is a team that I don't think that they're going to be that big of a threat to a North Texas, but they're 7-3 in the conference. They play very solid defensively. They hung around with teams like New Mexico State, who's better than them, clearly. Twice they lost to them, but they hung around with them both times. They've won 6 in a row, and we'll see. UTEP at North Texas, that's ESPN Plus, 7:00. 8:00, Kansas at Texas, ESPN. That's obviously the big one. Everyone's going to be paying attention to that game. Also at 8:00, Southern Utah at Montana. So you want to see some Tevion Jones action.
Yeah.
Southern Utah is playing. And I think Southern Utah is a team that could maybe do some damage in the Big West Conference. 15-6 overall, lost to Michigan, got destroyed by Michigan, by the way, but they've won 4 straight. And Montana's an interesting team. Montana is 15-8 overall, 8-4 in the conference, so a couple of good quality conference teams playing each other in the Big West. And then we have 8 p.m. Arizona at Arizona State.
Bobby Hurley win 2 in a row?
It's a quick turnaround. Both teams had yesterday off.
Yeah.
Now they're back at it. This certainly feels like a game that Arizona wins by a lot.
Arizona State played them close like recently, right?
Yeah, it ended up being an 11-point game, but
they were in it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the halftime score, it was 32-32.
Yeah.
And then with 10 minutes left to go in the game, the score was...
And you got to think that UCLA game gave them some confidence. So...
Yeah, I think confidence with them is shooting too much and still missing. I think that's kind of their confidence.
True.
They're pretty bad when it comes to offensive quality, no doubt. All right. I think that's it for Monday. We go to Tuesday now.
Yeah, because the Rochester Detroit game got canceled. So,
dang it. 6 o'clock Tuesday. Well, actually, first 5:30 Central. These are all Central time, by the way. Our time zone. Shout out. Central time. 5:30 Marquette at UConn. We'll see. UConn's been a little bit disappointing recently, but they're a team that should beat a Marquette. We'll see. Let's see here. 6 o'clock, we have Wisconsin at Michigan State. Michigan State won the first matchup in Madison. We'll see how that goes. And then Auburn at Arkansas. Also, we will see.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois at Purdue at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Big matchup there. Purdue won the first game in double overtime. Utah State at Wyoming. I believe it's on the Mountain West Network. It might not be, though. I'm not sure. I don't think anybody can actually get the Mountain West Network. I think it's actually impossible. But, okay. There you go with that. Then 10 o'clock, something worth staying up for. Santa Clara plays host. Great terminology there. To St. Mary's on ESPNU. I don't know why this is on ESPNU. It feels like an ESPN2 game, but whatever. So we'll see St. Mary's and Santa Clara, I think, are both. That's
because UCLA Stanford's on ESPN2.
Oh, yeah. God forbid we got to watch Stanford on national TV again. Great. That'll be great. That's Tuesday. Let's go to Wednesday.
Okay. Let's go
Houston at SMU, 6 o'clock. SMU, quality club. They can hang with them. Ohio State at Rutgers. We've seen Rutgers beat Purdue and Michigan State on their home floor this year. Could Ohio State be next? At 6 o'clock, Big Ten Network on Wednesday. Xavier at Seton Hall, 6 o'clock, FS1. Xavier just lost to effing DePaul at home.
Yeah.
So
yikes.
That's a game that they need to come back from. Also 6 o'clock, ESPN Plus, Binghamton at Vermont. I talked about Vermont. Very dynamic team, America East Conference team. Got to keep it rolling. They seemingly cannot lose. They may never lose again. But Binghamton 7-4. Their numbers would tell you they're not that good. I mean, they're 303rd in offensive efficiency. That doesn't really scream good to me for a team that's 7-4 in their conference. But to be fair, they're 3-6 in non-conference. I think that probably tanks some of their numbers overall. That's an ESPN Plus game. Then you go to 7 o'clock on Wednesday, Tennessee. Nope, read that wrong. Missouri State at Drake. We'll see. Drake likely tournament team. 8 o'clock on Wednesday, Texas Tech at Oklahoma, ESPNU. Loyola Chicago at Bradley, CBS Sports Network, and Tennessee at Mississippi State, 8 p.m. ESPN2. All right, moving along. Thursday, 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. Mount St. Mary's at Wagner. That is the game to watch. Mount St. Mary's at Wagner. The NEC, the Northeast Conference. 6 p.m. also, Hofstra, a quality Colonial athletic team, taking on Drexel. Drexel, a team that made the tournament out of that conference last season after an improbable conference tournament victory. But Hofstra is 6-4 in the conference. Drexel is 5-5. Drexel, pretty good offense for a team that's 10-10 overall in the Colonial Athletic Conference. Let's see. Also 6 o'clock, Mercer at VMI. SoCon action. I like watching SoCon hoops. And VMI Mercer will be a good game. You know why? You know why it's going to be a good game? There's many reasons as to why this could be a good game. But the biggest reason is VMI's offense electrifying. And it's against a pretty bad Mercer defense. So something to think about. VMI is first in the country in 3-point attempts over field goal attempts or whatever that stat is. So there you go. I think it's something to do with how many threes they take in comparison to field goals. Like they take a lot of threes compared to field goal attempts, whatever. But that'll be good to watch. VMI. Shout out Longwood, South Carolina upstate at Longwood, 6 o'clock on ESPNU. You know when Longwood's getting on ESPNU, legit team. So we're going to see that live in action for that game. 7 p.m., a solid OVC game, Morehead State at Belmont. two of the best teams. I believe they played each other in the conference championship last year, Morehead State winning that. Then we also have 8 p.m. Purdue at Michigan. Michigan played them pretty close in the last matchup. Michigan needs to win one of these games to kind of get going.
Yeah.
Get going into the tournament. I guess they're a team that can surprise people at the Big Ten tournament. Arkansas State at Troy, 6 o'clock ESPN Plus, Sun Belt. Some WAC basketball. If you watched the Cal Baptist Grand Canyon game the other night, woo! I believe there was a total of 14 points in like the first 12 minutes. Very electrifying game. But
Yes.
Grand Canyon, coached by Bryce Drew, pretty good team. Made the tournament last year, or got close. Actually, I don't even remember. Whatever. Nailed it. Totally professional analysis. San Diego at St. Mary's. You called San Diego fraudulent a few weeks ago. Tend to agree St. Mary's will win this game, but something to watch at 8 o'clock. Arizona at Washington State. Washington State, a team that a bit disappointing for me. I thought they'd be a guaranteed tournament team with all the returning players and the roster that they have, but still they'll be a tough matchup for Arizona on the road. 8 p.m. FS1. Also in the Pac-12, somehow this is the ESPN game. Stanford at Oregon. Stanford can upset teams, but also who the hell wants to watch that? I mean, come on.
Mine says ESPN 2, bro.
Yeah, it is ESPN too.
Oh.
Same thing. The ESPN game is Purdue, Michigan, of course.
Of course.
And then if you really want to stay up late and you're a real
Wooden
diehard,
watch. Hey, remember when we were talking about that wooden watch thing?
yeah,
They did a wooden watch on Juzang playing at Arizona State. So
because Arizona State's horrendous.
your theory is wrong, just so
It's
you know.
not completely wrong because Arizona State doesn't have a player on the list.
I'm just saying, you said that they would do it for home games.
Well, I thought that it was part of the reason why they for home games when both teams have a player on the list. So you just tried to gotch me. You failed. You really want to stay up late on a Thursday night, 10:59 p.m. Let's go to Hawaii, Long Beach State at Hawaii, 10:59 on ESPN Plus. That I might stay up for that game. I don't know. I think that's
not even on my list. Wow.
Well, it's a game. It's a deep cut, I think.
Okay.
And Hawaii's 6-2 in conference.
That's because
Long Beach State 7-1. So a couple teams that are battling with Cal State Fullerton to get into the tournament. We'll see. Should be an interesting game. Both teams are fairly balanced, so it won't be a blowout, I don't think. Friday, there's not too much going on, but there's some games worth discussing. 6 o'clock, UConn at Xavier. 8 o'clock, St. Bonaventure at St. Louis, which I think would be a way bigger game if St. Bonaventure wasn't completely disappointing. Iona at Siena. Iona coming off a loss to Monmouth, so got to bounce back there if you're old Dick Pitino. Nailed that.
Who calls him that?
That's the first. I just made it up. Fresno State at Colorado State, CBS Sports Network, 8:30. Like I said, Mountain West basketball, totally worth watching, just like UNLV, who's not even that good, at Boise State, 10 p.m. on FS1. So there's your Mountain West. And Jesus, the list for Saturday is absurdly long. It's going to take me a minute here. All right. Texas A&M at Auburn. Here's the 11 a.m. games. Texas A&M at Auburn on ESPN. Texas at Baylor, ESPN2, and Arkansas at Alabama, which is a huge game in terms of teams staying afloat. Must-Bus versus Nate Oates. SEC Network, 11 a.m. Noon games, you have Oklahoma at Kansas on CBS. Weird choice for that, but whatever. Kansas is going to dominate that game, just like they dominated West Virginia on CBS a couple weeks ago.
They probably thought Oklahoma would be a little bit better.
Yeah. All right. Seton Hall, Villanova, noon on Fox. 1 p.m. Saturday, Rutgers at Wisconsin. Chattanooga at Furman on ESPN Plus. Florida State, North Carolina on ESPN, because I think this is a big game for both teams. North Carolina needs to prove they can beat Florida State's really not that good, but they just need to win.
Yeah.
Would be ideal for them. 2 p.m. ACC Network X, whatever that is. Probably the ACC Network Plus.
Extreme.
Miami at Wake Forest. Two surprising teams we picked earlier in the show, going head-to-head, really toe-to-toe, I think most would say.
Yeah.
Let's see, losing it on my list. 2:30, Memphis at Houston, ABC. You get to watch Kelvin Sampson just absolutely obliterate Penny Hardaway, and Penny might quit after this game. Indiana at Michigan State, 2:30 on Fox. 3 o'clock, Florida at Kentucky, ESPN. TCU at Texas Tech, ESPN Plus. Kansas State at Iowa State, ESPNU. Murray State at Morehead State, which is going to be a great game to watch. Huge test for Murray State on the road in the OVC, 3 o'clock on ESPN+. 5 o'clock, Ohio State at Michigan. Another game Michigan's got to win. Very pressure-packed matchup for Michigan. Got to win this game. San Francisco at Santa Clara, 5 p.m. I think outside of Gonzaga, these are the two best teams in the conference right now. Maybe St. Mary's and over Santa Clara. It's pretty close between the two. I prefer Santa Clara at full strength. A lot of the games they lost early in the season were without their best player, whose name I can't get off the top of my head because I'm not that much of a, dweeb when it comes to the hoopage, but whatever. I digress. That's on Marquee Network, so whatever. I just thought that they reran.
Marquee has some good basketball games once.
I thought they just reran all the games that the Cubs won, like the 30 games they won last year or whatever, on there, but they don't. 5:30 p.m. DePaul at Providence. 5:30 p.m. FS1. We'll see. Will the luck run out for Providence? We'll discuss. Notre Dame at Clemson, 6 o'clock ACC Network. 7 o'clock Mississippi State at LSU, ESPN2. Drake at Bradley on ESPN3, which I think is just kind of the ESPN app. And then you have late night, 9 p.m. St. Mary's at Gonzaga, ESPN2. UCLA at USC, ESPN. I'm assuming you'll get a little Bill Walton action, UCLA at USC. And how high will he be on a scale of 1 to 10? I'd say he's about an 8.7 during the Arizona State UCLA game.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go late night again, this time they're having it on TV. It's ESPN Plus, the Thursday Hawaii game, but this Hawaii game, Saturday night, 10:59 p.m. I'll be there 100%, not at the game, but present watching in a room on a TV. ESPN2.
What channel is St. Mary's Gonzaga on?
I'm being told ESPN2.
Okay.
But there's actually, when I went to it, it said college basketball to be announced. It's these two games, so I'm assuming they'll go UCLA, USC on ESPN, and then St. Mary's at Gonzaga on ESPN2. I feel like Gonzaga is very much an ESPN2 team late at night. And then Cal State Fullerton is playing Hawaii at 10:59. Cal State Fullerton top in the conference. That'll be a great game. Hawaii number 2. Sunday. All right, no more football. I guess this is Super Bowl Sunday technically.
No more football.
I can confirm that I would rather watch Colorado State at Boise State than the Super Bowl. UConn at St. John's, 11 a.m. on Fox. Maryland at Purdue. How Maryland got 2 CBS games in a row is mind-boggling to me. Monmouth at Iona at noon. ESPN 3 game. Monmouth, was it Niagara that beat Iona? I might be wrong about that. Damn. I might be wrong about that one. But I'm trying to type in a tweet here. All right. Let's see. Iona at Monmouth is another pick. I'm typing our broadcast, tweeting it out a bunch of different times to, filter the viewers in. Northwestern at Illinois, 1 o'clock on Big Ten Network. And then 3 o'clock to finish out the day, Colorado State at Boise State on FS1. Northern Iowa at Loyola Chicago, ESPN2.
Is that a battle for first in the Northern Iowa, Loyola Chicago? Is that a battle for first?
I don't think Northern Iowa is any good.
Northern Iowa's 9-3 in the conference.
Okay, mixed them up with somebody else. My bad. I had a lot of.
They're only 13-9 overall, though. So,
and their conference wins are over Evansville, Valpo, Missouri State's okay, Indiana State, Southern Illinois, Evansville, Illinois State, Bradley, Drake. I mean, they've beaten. Come on. They
beat Drake.
Yeah, it's fine. That's all well and good.
Drake.
Missouri State's much better than Drake, in my opinion. The metrics would tell you. Missouri State has the best offense in the conference, 27th on KenPom. And I loved Loyola Chicago last year, but I don't really buy into them as much this year. And I don't really think it has that much to do without Crutwig. I just think that at some point, I think Valentine's a good coach for them, but I just don't think he's Moser right now. I think that might make a difference.
$75 go to Iona game? Holy smokes.
Dick Pitino's selling tickets.
Maybe they only have like 700 seats. Anyways.
Yeah, they got about 6 seats there. All right. 3 upset picks of the week. And let me tell you, when I say that I'm going off the board a couple times, or maybe not going off the board, but bold picks, I would say they're pretty bold that I got. Okay, we'll go one at a time. Your first one.
My first one is going to be Tuesday. I didn't pick them on the Illinois basketball podcast, but I'm picking them here. Illinois over Purdue. I think that this game I think whoever wins this game probably wins the Big Ten regular season. So I'm just hoping that it's Illinois now.
No. All right. Tuesday, my pick. The number one thrill score game per KenPom. This game has a thrill score of 76.6, which is 3 points out of Purdue, Illinois, which is second. I think it's in terms of, watchability, how good the two teams are, how their offenses match up, how their defenses match up, how their tempo matches up, the whole deal. This is the number one game. Arkansas must bus, home game, Bud Walton Arena, which is what I believe it's called. Electric. Arkansas beats Auburn 71-65. Arkansas has an experienced lineup, quality defense. They have the must bus. I know it's been a bit of a rocky ride this season. They will win this game. Key matchup in this game. I'm not going to say anything about Jabari Smith here. I'm going to say J.D. Notae, who's a veteran guard, versus Wendell Green. Wendell Green can light it up from anywhere. You look at the bottom of our screen right now on this broadcast, anywhere on that logo, he will shoot the ball. So that is something to think about with them. Arkansas beats Auburn. Auburn's due for a loss. This is the one where it's going to happen. They just about lost to Georgia. They should have lost to Georgia on Saturday. If Tom Crean wasn't a blithering idiot, they may have won that game. And I probably shouldn't blame it on Crean, but it's easy to do so. Second pick.
My second pick was Arkansas over Auburn.
Son of a... All right, we both went out on a limb there. We both went out for the limbs. Whatever I just said, nailed it. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say that we both went on a total big time limb there. All right.
Yeah.
Once again, number one thrill score game on Thursday, 74.9 thrill score. Number one.
Okay.
Michigan will beat Purdue. They hung around with him in the first game. Dickinson had a big game. If he has another big game, and then the other guys in this team don't suck, they have a good chance. 83-76 is what I'm going with there. They lost 81-76. Now they're going to win 83-76. Bada bing, bada bing. Purdue playing 4 games in 9 days.
Wow.
Something's going to catch up to them. They may lose tomorrow. They may lose Thursday. I don't think that they win both of these games. That's just what I think.
That's fair.
Dickinson versus Trevion and Edey's still the biggest matchup. I think Dickinson, out of those 3, is a better player when push comes to shove. I don't care what anybody says. Dickinson is the only player that's been worth pretty much the only player for the most part that's been worth anything for this team this year. He's the best player in the team. It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I think Michigan wins that game. All right. Saturday is my pick. So you go next, whatever.
I don't know when this game is, but I am going Rutgers at Wisconsin.
Yeah, this game was a part of the games of the week. I believe it is on a day that is a Saturday. 1 o'clock FS1. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Rutgers
game is
beats Wisconsin. Wisconsin is not as good as the record says. Rutgers just beat Michigan State. Of course, that was at home, and Rutgers always plays better at whatever they call their stadium now because it's not the RAC.
Jersey Mike's Arena, dude.
Jersey Mike's Arena. Get your free sandwiches.
I'm embarrassed that I knew that off the top of my head.
I'm going to go Rutgers goes into Wisconsin and proves that Wisconsin's a fraud.
Yeah, it's kind of a trap when you play that game. Here's the thing. That game is a lower thrill score than Hofstra, Delaware. So
I believe it.
Embarrassing. Probably because Rutgers is 88th on KenPom. Jesus. And you can't really trust anybody on that team to do anything any given night, especially Geo Baker, who's just inconsistent. I'm going to go with a game that may not have the cachet or the thrill score that you're looking for.
You're the one that's been going thrill score the whole time.
I'm going way down here. 42.0, 36th overall thrill score. DePaul will beat Providence. I know it's at Providence, at Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. Zip code to be named later. I think DePaul wins this game. I know that DePaul lost to them by 17.
Just talking about how bad DePaul was.
They're a team that can catch you. Like, look at what they did to Xavier. They can catch you. I'm just throwing one at the wall thinking it's going to stick. Providence won the first matchup by 17, but their luck has to run out soon. This is a good Providence roster, a solid team. I think Cooley's done a phenomenal job. I think he should be one of the first guys you mentioned when it comes to Coach of the Year. But the number one most lucky team on KenPom, plus 0.222 luck rating. Okay. Second most is plus 1.94, plus 0.91, plus 0.194. Nailed it. Okay. That's New Mexico State, who's second. Luck rating is effectively comparing a team's actual output to their expected output, where positive numbers indicate greater luck. And in that way, it's similar to the Pythagorean win-loss record that is fairly prevalent in certain baseball circles. How about that? So to say that Providence is good is fair, but to say that they have not been lucky is embarrassing because they have been lucky. So DePaul wins. They can push the pace. If Javon Freeman Liberty plays, they win this game. If he doesn't play, they probably lose. Him versus Al Durham, biggest matchup. Final thing, award races, National Player of the Year. Without being biased, who's the National Player of the Year? Go.
I don't know.
I'll go.
Abe Asmus.
I think it's Sheboy still. Just a force. I think he's kind of changed what Kentucky can be and what they can do. His numbers are off the charts. I think second would be Kofi. I think after that, it's kind of, people are going to have Johnny Davis up there. Agbaji from Kansas will be up there as well. Drew Timme still, seat at the table guy. Other notables that can be mentioned, Keegan Murray from Iowa, which there's no chance just because Iowa stinks. Bonchero will be mentioned. I think Wendell Moore's been mentioned many times for Duke. Jabari Smith, EJ Liddell. So I really don't care about National Player of the Year because I don't think that there's a player that completely sticks out from everybody else. So I think it can be a lot different from what you may expect.
Yeah.
Who was the National Player last year? That's why it doesn't matter. I don't even remember who it was last year, and I followed the entire season. Is it a name that we forgot? I don't even know.
Who won last year?
Yeah.
Garza.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even remember that. Come on. It's just a stupid award. Most college basketball awards
won it over Iowa. What do you mean?
You know what matters in college basketball with awards? All-Americans. That's it. Nothing else matters. And conference awards.
That's true.
National Player of the Year, who cares? Because 9 times out of 10, National Player of the Year is not going to be a good player in the NBA. Case in point, Luka Garza, who's a bum. Coach of the Year. I will give you these 5 names, and you tell me which one out of these 5 is the most deserving and the least deserving. Okay. Here we go.
Sounds good.
Tommy Lloyd, Arizona. Ed Cooley, Providence. Steve Forbes, not Steve Jobs, as I about said in my head. Wake Forest, came over from East Tennessee State. Bruce Pearl, Auburn. Absolute bum. I hate him.
Yep.
So I put the 2 coaches I hate the most at the bottom. Bruce Pearl and Greg Gard. Most deserving, least deserving.
Most deserving, Tommy Lloyd, no doubt. I guess, their talent was there, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, it was,
but first-year coach, out of school,
so
that was
good.
Yeah. I'm gonna say least deserving Greg Gard because I again think Wisconsin's gonna hit rock bottom and just.
Yeah, but you're kind of projecting there. I don't know.
Well, I can't pick who the coach of the year is without seeing the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think the way that I listed them was probably the way that I would rank it least to most.
Yeah.
Or most to least.
See,
Lloyd,
so
Cooley, Forbes, Pearl, Gard. Yeah, Steve Forbes, I think, was always just a terrific hire for Wake Forest.
Nobody buys players better than Bruce Pearl. So
Will Wade would really give him a run.
That's
there.
true. That's true.
I do not like Will Wade at all.
At least Bruce is winning with his.
LSU is still 16-7. They're actually
LSU's
number 16 on KenPom. It's defense though that has them up.
Slippery slope they got going there.
Yeah, no doubt. Adam Miller would have won National Player of the Year if he was playing. All right.
Probably.
That's when you know things are getting out of control. Yeah, I don't know about that. But I think college basketball is a little bit more fun when Wake Forest is good because the last time Wake Forest was really good is when Illinois was really good. So I think that's something to think about. But next week,
Paul, right? CP third.
Chris Paul, the second best point guard in Suns history already in year 2. So congrats to him on that recognition as they
clearly,
best record in the league, 42-10, not a big deal. All right, next week will not be an hour and a half. It'll be probably an hour, but we had to get a lot of things out of the way, kind of set some precedents for what we think, what we don't think. And we'll be back next Monday. Watch all the college hoops you can, and make sure that you hope Arkansas beats Auburn because that would be hilarious. All right, goodbye. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play the video just to end this, and then I'll end it. So, goodbye.
across the timeline, plays it to Christian Brown. There's a lob. Austin, a 40-foot alley-oop. CB on the line.